Hello, welcome to the second video on the topic of Hebrew Ivri Ewe Ewe, the Black Man. My name is Sairam Ajanku. In this presentation, we will briefly do a recap of the first video. We will talk about the Ewe alphabet. We will review some Ewe names. And finally, we will discuss a cultural point. In the first video, I went over one main migration route of the Ewes, and I mentioned that they went from Cana, which is the present-day land of Israel, to Keme, which is present-day Egypt, which is also known in the Old Testament as Misraim, to Seme, which means within the law, to Ile-Ife, from Ile-Ife to Ketu, which means in the bowels of the sand, from Ketu to Tado, which means the head has arrived, to Ngoche, and then to Keta, from where they spread out into their present locations. The core of the Ewes are found in southeastern Ghana, in Togo, in southern Benin, and in southwestern Nigeria. The picture which you see here is a medal. It's a decorative medal which the French received for their defeat of the Dahomean Empire in 1892. The back of the coin, the back of the medal lists Cana as one of the places they conquered. Actually, Cana was the last major battle before they took the capital of the Dahomey Empire called Abome. So in Dahomey, you find Cana and you find Judah. Ancient Ewe, the Ewe language. So the ancient Ewe writing uses pictograph. The picture on the right side, is that of a modern Ewe Kente cloth with modern pictograph by UNESCO recognized master weaver Bob Dennis Ahiagbli. This picture is from AdairAfricanTextiles.com. The popularly used Ewe writing system borrows from the Latin. There are not enough letters in contemporary European languages, so the Ewe borrows from the Latin, the modern Ewe writing. The Ewe alphabet. This is the Latin Ewe alphabet. It consists of 30 letters and 5 combination letters. Let's go through them. The first letter is A, A, B, B, D. The D that you see there, the first D, is not a D sound, it's D. It's a cross between TH and D. It's a forceful D, D. The next D with the bar and the lowercase with the hook is the actual D sound. So that makes a D sound. So that's a D. The next one is A, A, E, E, F, F. That's just an F sound. It's F. You blow through your teeth to make that sound. The next one is F, F. That is simply blowing through your pursed lips like you are blowing candles. F. And then we have G, which is the G sound. G. And then we have the, which is, it looks like a cross between an X and a Y. The. It's a sound that you kind of make at the back of your throat, as if you're saying the French R, which is pronounced R, but you don't make it so strongly. It's a softer R, and it becomes R, R. The next letter is the H. That is just H, H. Next we have I. E, E, K, K. Mm, like mama. Mm, 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 like no. Mm. The next one is an N with a hook, and it's pronounced ng, ng. It's a nasal sound. You kind of you make the sound through your nose. Yeah. So ng, ng. O, 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 o. The backward C is o, p, p, r, r, s, s, t, t, u, u, v, v. Some people also pronounce the V, v, instead of v. So it's pronounced both ways. You have v and you have v. The next letter we've talked about before in the first video, and it's the U with the hook, and it makes the V sound, which is a vibration sound which you make with your pursed lips while forcing out air. V, V. This letter is also it's also in the Paleo Hebrew. The Vav is also this letter. So the Vav doubles as a V and Vav doubles as a V, V, which they weren't able to translate into the modern Hebrew. So you don't have a letter representing V in the modern Hebrew writing, which is the Aramaic Babylonian text. Let's move on to the W, that is W, W. Now, the X is not pronounced X. There is no X sound in ever. You have, what you have there is a H sound. H. You kind of have to have a little bit of saliva in your mouth to make the sound accurately. It's H. If you know the modern Hebrew script, the chet, which is a C, it's they spell it CHET, makes the same sound. It's H, H. The next letter is a Y, and that's just Y. It's pronounced Y. And then lastly, we have Z, Z. Now, let's move on to the combination sounds. You have DZ, which makes a J sound, and it also makes Z, Z, and it makes J. Let's use an example. My last name or my surname is Ajanku, Ajanku. Aja, you might think is spelled AJA, but it's not. It's an Ewe name, and it's spelled ADZA, Aja. So the DZ also makes a J sound. The next combination is TS, which is the ch sound. It makes a th sound like the letter tzadi in the modern Hebrew script, and it also makes the ch sound. So you have ch or you have th. The next combination is the BG, that is b, b. That's quite a heavy sound. You just need to practice to make it. You start with a closed mouth and you end with an open mouth. B, b. The next combination is the KP, which is b, b. You make it the same way. You start with a closed mouth and you end up with an open mouth. B. The next one is the NY, which is ny, 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 ny. So there, like I said, there is no J letter in the ever writing, and there's no C in the ever writing. Here we have a table of the ancient ever or Hebrew pictogram along with the Assyrian alphabet or alphabet. We will focus on the first column on the left and the third column which is in the middle. So you see the first column on the left, shows you the ancient pictogram. That's where you have the sheep head, and you have the bet, which is the beho, and so on and so forth. And on the third column, you have the Assyrian script, which you have the Aleph, Bet, Gimel, and so on and so forth. All right, let's practice some Ever names. You've probably heard of the origin of the word Hebrew. We know that the term Hebrew stems from Eber or Heber. Strong's H5677 pronounces it as Aver. The consonantal biblical Hebrew script, which is the Assyrian script, writes it as Ayin Bet Resh. Know that whenever you see Bet and Resh used together, it is likely an attempt to transliterate the V sound, which is non-existent in the Assyrian script. The same rule applies when there is a bet and vet or a vav letter or character. The modern Hebrew meaning of what they pronounce as aver is the region beyond. We know that this is a mistranslation, or let's say a mistransliteration of the word ever. In the Paleo-Hebrew script, the character vav, which looks like a Y, is translated as vav or wow. What the scholars missed is that this character also makes the V sound. The letter V is not only a letter. In Ewe, V means valley. Now, go back to the Paleo-Hebrew and take a look at the character vav or V. You will notice that it is simply a drawing of a valley. So here is the evolution of the word Ewe. It started as Ewe, which is the original pronunciation, which is the language in the language of creation. Then it became Eber or Heber, and then it became Ivri, and then Hebreus, then Hebraios, which is the Greek. The Hebreus is Latin, Hebraios is Greek. Then you have Hébreu, which is French, and then the modern pronunciation of Hebrew. Here are some other ways of pronouncing Eve, or some forms of it. You have Eviawu, which means the Eve people. You have Eveviwo, which means the children of Eve. Also, see Mauli, Mauvi, Eve Gamesu. Let's review the name Adam. The consonantal biblical Hebrew script writes it as Aleph, Dalet, Mem. According to Strong's H120, it is pronounced Adam, and it means man or mankind. However, the vowels are not original to the text. They are recent additions. If you look at the consonantal biblical Hebrew writing, which is the Assyrian script, it is Aleph, Dalet, Mem. There is no indication as to which vowel sounds go where. Unless you speak the Ewe language, you won't be able to correctly decipher the pronunciation of the names and then also their meanings. In Ewe, we read Aleph, Dalet, Mem as Edim or Adim. Please see Holali Togbi Wonyo's video concerning this. We know this because it is backed by scripture. Genesis 1:26 to 28 tells us, "Let us make man in our own image." What does Edim or Adam mean in Ewe? It means he looks like me. Adam is made in the image of Yahweh himself, the Most High. Let's review the name of Eve. The modern Hebrew pronounces it as Chava. Chava. It is written Chet Vav He. The X in Ewe is the same sound as the Chet sound in biblical Hebrew. The modern Hebrew meaning of Chava is a living being. In Ewe, Chawa, or if you stick with the Anglo dialect, you would say Chawo, means made from side. Adam is simply describing the manner in which his wife was made. All right, let's look at the name Gabriel. The Strong's H1403 pronounces it as Gabriel. The consonantal text has it as Gimel, Bet, Resh, Yod, Aleph, Lamed. There are two parts in this name. The first part, which I've colored red, is Gavri. Remember that Vet or Bet and Resh together is the V sound. The second part in blue is Al or El, which signifies God. It is to tell you that God has something to do with this name. The name is transliterated to mean a warrior of God or a man of God. Let's look at it in Ewe. Ga in Ewe means iron. It also means again. Vli means wrestle. So Gavli means wrestle with iron, and also it means wrestle again. What does the Bible say about Gabriel or Gavli? Genesis 32 tells us that Jacob wrestled with an angel all night, and the angel disjointed Jacob's hip. It was also said that Jacob wrestled with God. So the meaning of the name sheds light on the text. It tells us that Jacob wrestled with a very strong man of God, whom he compared to iron. And he wrestled all night. He wrestled again and again. Gabriel. Now, let's look at another name, Gamaliel. It is found in Strong's H 1583 and pronounced there as Gamaliel. If you look at the consonantal biblical Hebrew writing, it is a two-part name. The first part is Gamali, Gamali, or Gamli, which is Gimel Mem Lamed Yod. The second part is Al, or El. That's Aleph Lamed. Again, the El or Al is just to tell you that this name has to do with the Most High God. Let's examine this name in Eve. Gameli in Eve means there is time for everything. Gamaliel is found in Numbers 2:20. He was the captain of the tribe of Manasseh, which I told you in the first video means I will provide the law. Manasseh. So Gamali is there is time for everything. Let's look at the scriptural reference. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1 to 11a tells us, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which was planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. This is such a time with the coronavirus scare. This is a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. What profit hath he that worketh in that wherein he laboureth? I have seen the travail which God hath given to the sons of men to be exercised in it. He hath made everything beautiful in his time. Gamaliel means everything has its time in God's own time, or God's time is best. Cultural points. The cultural point for today is the ritual separation of women. We find this in Leviticus 15 verse 19 to 21. It says, and if a woman have an issue, and her issue in her flesh be blood, she shall be put apart 7 days, and whosoever toucheth her shall be unclean until the even. And everything that she lieth upon in her separation shall be unclean. Everything also that she sitteth upon shall be unclean. And whosoever toucheth her bed shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. Traditionally, every women are required to separate themselves during their time. During that time, everything she touches is considered unclean. The other word for menses is chi bo to. Remember, I told you that the TS makes a ch sound. So this is chi, gbo, to. GB is b, and backward C is o. Chi, gbo, to. This means remain at the outskirts of the town, which is separate, be separate. Spears writes in his book The Ewe People of German Togoland, she has to put her mat and the stool on which she is fond of sitting behind the house during this period. We find this in page 247. A.B. Ellis writes in his book titled The Ewe People of the Slave Coast of Africa, women may not, by contrary custom, admit the male during pregnancy, while suckling, or during menstruation. At the latter periods, they are considered impure and have to retire to a quarter set apart in each town or village. We find this in Ellis, page 208. Smith also continues to write, she may only cook for herself during this period. She should neither cook for the husband nor carry out any services for the man at all. The wives of priests, spiritualists, and chiefs must stay in another house outside the farmstead. So after the time after time has passed, the woman has to go through a ritual purification before returning home, and this is biblical as well. Here are some of the references which I used. I thank you very much for following, and I hope you've been blessed by this teaching.